earlier in the week. We welcome to the Element Well studio now Senator Tyler McCaughn, represents District 31, which incorporates Lauderdale, Newton, and Scott counties, serves as the chair of the Senate Forestry Committee, vice chair of the Agriculture Committee, and also quite successful in the agricultural industry, right there, Senator?
We have, and that's actually been updated a little bit, Gerard. I appreciate you having me here today. I was moved to your vice chair of Judd A now.
That's right. You told me that.
So, and I picked up part of Rankin County, so don't get me in trouble by not mentioning Leesburg out there.
Oh, that's right.
Good folks out there, for sure.
Well, I forgot we had redistricting, and we got some slices here and there of some counties.
Hey, but we've still got our ag. We've got a pretty good vice chair with Andy Berry over there on ag now, so we're happy to have him there.
Right, so just came into the Senate, right?
Yeah, came in. I got a little experience out there with Cattlemen's Association.
I was going to say, and a cattle farmer himself, is that right?
Cattle farmer himself, good guy.
Thought so. Ran into him in the Capitol, I believe it was yesterday, as a matter of fact. So, good guy. I think a welcome new member of the Mississippi State Senate. All right, so we've been talking a lot about, of course, as you know, about Medicaid, but we are an agriculture state.
We are an ag state. I know that it's a busy time at the legislature, and there's so many things going on that you've got so many topics out there. We are still a huge agriculture state. It's our commodity here. We're good at it, and we like feeding people, you know.
And I'm glad you do. And in fact, let's be honest, the state of Mississippi feeds a whole bunch of people.
Whole bunch of people from the coast all the way up north. I saw there was a bill out there talking about the sweet potato because people don't realize the number of sweet potatoes that are grown in northern Mississippi. You look on the coast down there, and you see the amount of blue crabs and oysters that we ship all over the world, and and all the other ag products that are out there in our state.
Yeah, big time. All right, so tell us about some of the legislation you're working on in that forestry committee.
Well, I got the distinct honor of working with our foreign ownership bill this year. And the last time you and I were on here, we talked about it in general terms, and now we've got a bill out there that is headed to our Judiciary Aid Committee for review there. We sent it through Judd A this time because you put a bunch of attorneys in there, and they'll figure it out or they'll mess it up, one of the two.
Yeah. Well, this is something that numerous states, have taken up, and some have actually passed legislation. I know neighboring Arkansas has a law in place. What are you thinking about for ours here?
Well, we got a bill out there, and the House actually used the language and moved it forward, and we're so happy to see the House moving it. I think we've only got one small technical correction. I think that's moving from corporation to company on where it says limited liability in there. But the biggest thing we're trying to do is balance that between ownership and development in the state of Mississippi. And if you know, we had a huge announcement recently, and it involves some foreign entities that are coming in and being a part of, I believe, one of the battery plant.
Yep, Marshall County.
And those folks were gracious enough to work with us and not just to get discouraged when they heard that we were working through this. But, we're just trying to be sure that those who are our adversaries are not entitled to the majority ownership interest of land here in Mississippi.
Okay, so how do we define adversaries? What qualifies a nation or any other entity as an adversary?
Whether we like it or not, the federal government does do a few things, and one of those is they determine through the Secretary of Commerce, they have a list. Okay. And generally there's a big 6 of them, and naming them, I'm sure I'll forget one. But China's one of our biggest. Russia, Iran. And those are big countries that we don't necessarily want here owning all of our ag land.
Okay.
And this is ag and forestry land. I've been asked, why didn't we go into the National Guard and our military installations? I believe that's a huge issue that needs to be addressed. And I think that we're going to have some great legislation come forward from that in the next year or so. And this is just our forest and ag land as defined under this bill. And we're looking at, you can't own a majority interest in it here. And that's how we've started this bill, and that's where it's been moving through as a non-resident alien. There is an interest in there for leaseholds.
Okay.
For you to have a development of an ag chemical or whatever it may be here, fertilizer here in Mississippi, it's got to be utilized here. It's got to be tested here. So we do have a leasehold provision in there for an exemption of up to 500 acres for, Syngenta is one of the biggest that you keep hearing about in Arkansas, and and you hear that China's bought that company. Well,
Yeah.
If we're going to utilize their products here, and unfortunately we do have to utilize their products in the ag industry, we've got to be sure those are going to work here in Mississippi.
Okay.
So we've kind of worked through the leasehold interest there. We've done some fines and assessments out there. The biggest thing is, once we find out that there's a majority interest of some property owned here by an adversary, Secretary of State's office is charged with sending out a notice saying you've got to get rid of it, or you can become a U.S. citizen. It's your choice. If you make that choice to become a U.S. citizen and get away from your former country, we're happy with that. Once that happens, if you fail to, or that entity fails, or country fails to terminate its interest in that property, then the Attorney General will be charged with moving forward.
Okay.
Fines and assessments are in there, and there's an ability for the judicial taking of that land by the state of Mississippi. So it's pretty basic in that we don't want a majority share of anybody that's an adversary owning property in Mississippi.
Makes sense. And I believe that's fairly consistent with the Arkansas law, is it not?
It's pretty close. Arkansas was a little bit different with some of their stuff, but the majority of the wording here we worked through with our partners over the last 4 to 5 months and came up with the product we've got now.
Okay. So that has not come out of committee yet?
So it's come out of my my subcommittee in Judiciary,
Okay.
And it will be coming to the full committee. I believe it's coming this afternoon.
Oh, okay. You optimistic about that? You feel like the votes are there to pass this, get it out to the floor?
I believe the people of Mississippi are wanting something.
Yeah, I do too.
I think this is a good product. I think it balances everything out there.
Okay.
And I do think it'll move forward.
Okay. Well, I honestly do too. What about the House? We got something coming over there too.
Well, the
right?
House actually has one. They've already
That's what I
passed
thought.
theirs off
Yeah.
the floor and sent it over.
Okay.
We worked very closely with the House to be sure the language was mirrored.
Right.
And we've done a good job doing that, and we appreciate the chairman on the other side, Chairman Pygott,
Yeah.
for moving that through his committee.
So, headed to conference likely, you think, at this point, or what?
I hope we can get it ironed out and we send it to the governor.
Okay. All right.
And we've got all kinds of good other issues coming down the pipe, but and as you already know, but I think this was a big one.
It was. I think that what folks have just witnessed, with their own eyes and ears, causes them to be concerned, especially when we've got this stream of illegals just flowing across our border on a daily basis.
Oh, my
People
goodness.
are worried about it.
I wish there was some way we as a state could further implement more on that border control there, because the numbers just are staggering.
They're crazy. I know, they're crazy, and the Biden administration just doesn't seem to have any interest in addressing the issue.
Oh, we don't work on real problem issues. We don't work on the stuff that doesn't really matter at the end of the day.
I totally
It's
agree.
kind of how I feel like the Biden administration's moved right now.
That's what it looks like at this point.
And and we're a state that does use migrant labor.
Yeah.
We have for the last 20 years. You see the influx with the poultry industry, especially, and then you see in some of like the sweet potato industry. You see some on the coast. In other nursery facilities where they utilize that. But most of those are coming through the process properly.
They are. Yeah, I agree. And I don't think most people have an objection to that. I mean, what they have an objection to is just these people who are illegal that don't really seem to be up to any good when they're crossing that border. And it's a problem. And it's inundating the country.
It is, and they're bringing in products that – you've seen the legislature work on fentanyl. You've seen us work on pill presses. And unfortunately, those products that are coming in here with a lot of these illegals are very concerning.
Yeah.
And they are deadly substances that, could end up at a party on a college campus and wipe out the whole campus.
Yeah. All right, what else are you working on? We got about a minute left, and if you can stay, we can come on the other side. We can continue this on the other side of the break.
I'm
what
here
else
with
coming out of
you
here?
for whatever there,
Okay,
Gerard. I
good.
promise.
Appreciate that.
I think we've got some other ones coming up. We're trying to do some cleanup things. I am working on a nonprofit bill with some of our partners, trying to do a little accountability in our nonprofit corporations out there. And really all it is making them file the same annual report any LLC or anybody else would in the Secretary of State's office. And just note that, did you receive state funds? If you did, from what source? And that being it. I think we're seeing some traction happen with that. And the biggest deal is bring some accountability. With all the bad press we've received over the last 5 years on the welfare scandal, it's time to get a little accountability out there.
Yeah, that makes sense. Surely there's an interest in doing something there, huh?
I believe it is.
Yeah. We got Senator Tyler McCaughn in the Element Well studio. We're coming right back. Element Well studio, we're visiting with Senator Tyler McCaughn from over there in Lauderdale, Newton, Scott, and Rankin counties, right? 4 counties. I always like you guys that have these districts that touch all these counties like that.
I'll say that I probably have one of the prettiest districts because I've got 2 full counties, and it's a nice district, and, we got some good folks over there.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. No doubt about it. East Central Mississippi, for sure. So we're talking about, while we're talking about, I guess, ag and forestry, big industries in our state, the weather wreaked havoc on the pine trees across the state of Mississippi, and not just pine trees, but magnolias and lots of other plants, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
But the pine trees are particularly noticeable because we have them all over the state for the most part, and they're tall. And so you see them, and they're all along our roadways. Certainly in my neighborhood, I had to take 2 out in my yard.
No.
You get worried about them falling.
That's right.
And I know my county of Madison, I believe, has applied for federal assistance to take out a lot of the pine trees, fearing that they just may uproot and fall just randomly at any point in time, and it could fall across the road and harm some property and harm some people, more importantly, driving down the roadway.
This is an issue that we haven't seen since, I believe they said the 80s.
Yeah.
We had a big run back then. And unfortunately, we brought a lot of it on ourselves by not managing that timber. But, Mother Nature has a way of fixing things that we screw up. And I think you're going to see that. If you see... you're seeing a lot of deaths of timber that just weren't managed. Now, is that all you're seeing? You're not seeing just that because it's going across the state. With the number of trees that were actually stated to have died, we're not done yet. We're not done because you haven't seen your hardwoods really start coming out. We don't know how many of those we lost during this drought, and the drought's going to be for them, not the beetle there. My concern is we've got to encourage people to clean up and replant. Just manage this time.
Yeah.
We're working real hard to get sources, get locations for you to take your timber, to take your residuals and all that across the state. We just need to be sure that supply is there. And where we had a 4-to-1 ratio of trees that were left out there for every one you cut, we're going to see that diminish substantially just because of this one summer that we had. So I do encourage people, and I think everybody else will in the forestry industry, to say, don't give up. Just remember we need that supply in the future, and it's going to change some. I'm very concerned that we're going to see people go and just bulldoze. Bulldoze a stand now and put it back in pasture, which is great for me as a cattle farmer, but it's not good for the industry as a whole in forestry. It is devastating. I understand that, and it's really bad for the people that had planned on using that as part of their retirement. You talk about what's going to happen with these trees. I'm concerned about MDOT. MDOT's budget is going to take a huge hit based just on the cleanup of this. If you see them on the roads already out there going down the highways trying to go and clean up some of that timber, I know that in District 5, they've already estimated over $6 million is what it'll cost in an increased budget this year.
Yeah.
Just for that timber.
Wow, I didn't think about that. So this isn't a problem unique to Mississippi, though. So are we seeing some federal disaster relief funding that's being
I've heard
that
I've heard it's being considered. I do know the commissioner for the forestry commissioner, the state forester, was in D.C. with a group discussing what could be done. I don't know that you're going to see something where they pay for your trees. I mean, I don't know that that's going to be what you see. I do think you're going to see something with regard to credits for reforestation, credits for helping you with regard to your cleanup, because that could cost you $1,000, $2,000 an acre just to clean that up. Do I think you're going to see people just let it go? Probably so, and they're going to come down. You'll have a natural forest come back. You'll see a whole lot of sweet gums pop up.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Well, you can't help but notice it as you travel across the landscape of the state. And I have a little stretch that I travel on, the Natchez Trace. between my home and where I attend church. And you just can't help but notice it. You know,
That's
you see,
right.
and they're starting to clean some of that up and remove some of those. And a lot of times, of course, those generally 2-lane road, and a lot of times those trees are not far off of the shoulder there, and certainly long enough and tall enough. If they fall, they're going way across the road onto the other side, and could be a danger.
I will say,
situation.
you know, we as a public need to be cognizant of the fact that our counties, our cities, MDOT, your power companies, you know, all the fiber that's being strung on those power poles.
Yep.
I get it; they've got their right-of-ways, but a lot of these trees are a little bit longer than your right-of-way.
Yeah.
And they're all going to be fighting fights for the next couple of years, trying to be sure that doesn't impact your service.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that, but that's absolutely a good point. It's always a concern. All right, so you got lots of other high-profile matters that the legislature is debating. We've been talking, of course, as you know, you kind of received the baton from our prior guest, Representative Missy McGee, who has shepherded this Medicaid expansion issue through the House there. The Senate, we're told, is going to have its bill as well here pretty soon. And then I think both chambers are going to take something up. The governor's been pretty clear that he opposes this move. Where do you stand, and what do you think about the Senate? What do you hear in the Senate at this point? And I know you've been heads down on forestry and ag and Judd, but what are you hearing on that matter?
I'm hearing that it's still in debates for sure. I'm not on public health, and I'm not on Medicaid, so I'm not in the middle of the mix right now. I'm very concerned, and I think we all are very concerned about what happens here. The feds are not necessarily known for continuing to do what they say they're going to do over a long period of time. So I'm very concerned about anything we do that's dependent upon that federal money there. Now, Mississippi as a whole, you know, we receive a lot of federal funds. The number, and I forgot what the number is, but it's substantial for every dollar we send to D.C.
3
how much
to
we
1.
get back. It's
3 to 1.
huge.
Yeah.
And this is just going to continue that deficit for sure. I've heard a lot about their bill. I've not gone and read their bill. I understand it's about 24 pages from Representative McGee, and I understand where they're coming from. The plight is to do what you can to plug the hole for those who are not having insurance or not helping the system and are putting us in a position of uncompensated care. We have all of these hospitals out there that are concerned about that. And I've also heard the hospitals that say that this isn't the magic bullet.
Right.
And I don't know what the magic bullet is, and I don't know if we can get there ever. I do think that you're going to see a pretty good bill come from Senator Blackwell, Chairman Blackwell. Can I vote for it? I don't know yet. I haven't seen it for sure.
Okay.
But I do think there's definitely some improvements that need to be made upon the one that came over.
Okay. Let's turn our focus to education. New funding formulas being proposed, right, in both chambers. That gets a little wonky too. What do you think?
It does get a little wonky, and I appreciate Senator DeBar, who, you know, he'll tell you in the past, he when he was appointed education chair, that he wondered what he did wrong. He's done a great job of leading us over the last 5 years. I'm anxious to see what he comes out with. I'm not on education yet, of course. These type issues usually hit the floor before I get to see them that much. We've got to do something. You know, we can't continue to be putting the burden on the counties to continue going up on that millage to fund these schools. Because if we don't do it on the state level, it has to go back to you at home.
That's right.
The landowner and the ad valorem taxes there. So.
Well, I think it just seems like that the MAEP formula, the existing formula, needs modernizing, shall we say, the approach there.
It's amazing. We've had a lot happen since then, haven't we?
Yeah.
And you're seeing school districts, and I know that it's a hot-button issue for Jackson, but Jackson School District is trying to work through the process of consolidating back down their attendance in buildings that they've got instead of having it spread out. So
they're going to close some schools.
Yeah.
They already have, but I think more are planned to try to achieve some efficiencies there and reduce some cost and make that make sense.
We are definitely in a different world now. I mean, you're the tech guy, Gerard. You know about this. You've watched it evolve over the years, and the face of education is different.
Totally.
And I think we can do more with what we've got for less money. and we've got to. We just got to be cognizant of that public dollar out there.
Everybody's very protective of their fiefdoms, as you know, and that makes it a little more difficult.
The little kingdoms, for sure.
Senator Tyler McCaughn, really appreciate you coming on. Always good to see you.
Thank you, Gerard. I appreciate you. We're
coming right back, folks. We got half an hour left here on Middays. We're in the Element Well studio.